Hi you guys, it's me Arden Lee. I am back with another video, and today I'm going to answer the question of, is there anything that you can do if you feel that your relationship partner is acting out of their wounding, or they're triggering or unaddressed trauma, or there are things that they could be doing to move forward with their self-improvement? Is there any way to to address that in a way that's helpful and healthy? And that question, by the way, is a question that was asked by one of our members of the Repatterning Parlor, and that is the free group that I moderate on Facebook to go along with the course, the Repatterning Project, for people who want to find support, who have questions about the kind of work that we do. So, by the way, go in the description box and you will find a link there. Come over and join us. I take requests on threads in that group for these videos. So if you're enjoying these, come join our community and come get your questions answered too. All right. So the answer to that question, is there any way to point it out to your partner when they're acting out of their wounding or their unaddressed trauma? There are two answers to this question. Those two answers are yes and no. It really depends on the relationship that you have with your partner and how open they are to your feedback, and also, and also how much you have addressed your own shadow too. Because whenever any two people are in relationship, there's always going to be a tendency. We always see like someone else's faults clearer than we see our own. Well, you did this, well, you did that, and we're still in our own shadow. So what you can do is, if you have a relationship agreement where the two of you have said, kind of upfront, like, hey, let's use this relationship as a container for our own personal growth, for our growth as individuals, and for our growth, as individuals who are comprising a relationship together. Let's be really honest with each other. Let's use the opportunities that we have in this intimate setting to examine ourselves and to do the work that we need to do. When there's conflict, when we run up against tension or resistance, or we're triggered, let's use all of those opportunities as a chance to to ground in, to communicate, to understand ourselves better. And do we agree in this relationship? Do I have your permission to point it out to you when I think you're acting out of out of a projection, or out of trauma, or out of stuff that's that's going on that has nothing to do with the present moment, right? These are really good conversations to have at the start of a relationship, you guys, because what if you were to ask that question to someone? Is it okay if I point this out to you when I think, and what if they said no? Which is a perfectly valid answer if someone is not looking to get into relationships that address their personal growth. But then, do they really have the same values that you do? Is that someone you really want to be in a relationship with, right? So really what it comes down to is yes, absolutely. You can bring things up and you can say, hey, one of the things that's really important in my perspective is, whenever you're bringing up what you notice, it's really important to own it as your perception, right? So instead of saying, you're doing this, or even like, I think you're doing this, or I feel like you're doing this, right? Because we all know, like, saying, well, I feel like you're being an asshole, or whatever, is no different from just saying, like, you're an asshole, right? So, right, I statements only go so far. But what is good to say often is, like, what I perceive about this situation. Or as Brene Brown says, the story I'm making up in my head about what's happening right now is, right? So we really own that, like, hey, this is what I'm perceiving, right? What I perceive about this is that this is what's happening, right? What I'm noticing, what I feel like is going on, whatever that is, and really giving your partner the opportunity to come back with what they saw in that situation, or what they felt in that situation, right? So the first thing is, it's really important if you're going to do this, is, make sure that you're not overly invested in being right about them, right? Because no one's infallible. And the moment we think that we're right about everything is the moment we're really going to get kicked in the ass. And to assume that we're right about what's going on with our partner, or what's happening for them, or what's coming from what trauma, or what have you, to assume that we're just right just because we're noticing it is gaslighting, you guys, right? It's really telling someone else what their experience is and not allowing them to have a voice in what their own experience of their experience is, right? So those are a couple tips, right? First of all, make sure that you're getting into a relationship with the agreement that these are things that you can discuss, that you can bring up in a calm, peaceful, and constructive manner. You know, that you have their permission to address these things if they happen to come up in relationship. Second one is make sure you're sharing it as what you are perceiving, right? And understand that just because you're noticing something doesn't always mean that you're right about it, right? So really just say, this is my perspective, this is what I'm getting out of this, this is what I think is happening. So you tell me, does that sound right to you? Does that resonate with you, right? These are words I use even when I facilitate with my clients, right? What I perceive about this situation is this. Does that feel right to you? Does that resonate? Does that sound like I got it right, right? We put it out there like that, and that way we give people the opportunity to really choose, yes, this feels true for me, or no, I think there's something else going on, but thank you for bringing that up because now I know where I can clarify that, et cetera, right? These are great kinds of discussions to have in relationship. But ultimately, you're not responsible for your partner's growth, and if they don't want to participate in those conversations with you, or they say they want to participate in those conversations with you, but then they never seem to be productive, they never seem to go anywhere, they shut down the minute you say something, they not only do they, say, no, that's not true for me, they don't even just want to discuss what does feel true for them. They don't want to untangle that knot. Ultimately, there is nothing you can do. There's, we can lead a horse to water, but we can't make them drink, right? And for as much work as we're doing on ourselves, if our partners are not doing the equivalent growth on their own end, we may drift apart. It may not be the right relationship for us any longer, right? Maybe it was for a time, but if we, if we're going our separate ways, or one person is doing the work and one person wants to stay where they are, then, then it may not end up being a fit, but it's good to know that, right? So ultimately, we can only be responsible for our own behavior, but we want to look at this too. If we're attracting a partner who we're constantly feeling that we have to have these conversations with, I'm not saying that that's necessarily what's happening in this particular scenario here. Hopefully, you can have a relationship where both of you constantly call each other out, not call each other out in a mean way, but constantly invite each other to examine, hey, where's that coming from? Is that true what you just said? What's going on with there? There's a lot of conscious people, and when I say conscious people, I mean people in the consciousness communities who are, I swear, they get into relationships just for the sake of having a mirror to have someone call them on their bullshit, and vice versa, right? So there's plenty of relationships where you can choose to be like that. But if you're in a situation that you really feel is one-sided, and you've got a partner who is continually acting from what you feel is unaddressed trauma or projection, or acting in ways that are not healthy, that are not beneficial to the relationship, then ultimately you want to look at your own standards. You want to look at what is your motivation behind choosing to try and have those conversations when there's resistance to them, versus just going out and sourcing another relationship that's more of a match to where you're at right now. And that's something that only, you as in the individual who is in that relationship, whoever you are, whoever is watching this video, that's something that only you can know for yourself. Is this relationship worth it to me or not? Am I having to constantly go back and have these conversations again and again? Or is this actually productive and fruitful and helpful, and I just need to find the right communication skills around making sure that I'm presenting these things that I'm seeing to my partner in a healthy way, and am I also inviting them to do the same for me? Is this an even exchange, right? If one person is constantly telling the other person what is right or wrong about the situation, No matter which partner that is, that's not healthy. You know, that's gaslighting. Both people in the relationship deserve a voice. So if you can do that in that back and forth manner, then yeah, that can absolutely be great. But if it's happening too often, and there is resistance to those conversations happening, or it seems like it's always one person wanting to talk about it and one person wanting to shut it down, then ultimately you want to look at and say, you know, is this the kind of relationship that I want to be in? Do I now know that what I want is that kind of relationship where we can go back and forth and we can notice what is going on with one another, and bring that up for discussion with each other for the purpose of our own growth and self-improvement. So thank you guys for tuning in. I hope that was helpful. Come join us in the Repatterning Parlor. I'll see you there.